The police department I've been with the police department for 7 years, been a law enforcement officer for 13. I currently work in the schools, which is where this class originated, and a member of the SWAT team. I do the sniper and entry team stuff with the SWAT team. We just found a need for this and created a class, and it was originally for the schools because we both worked in the schools. And it just kind of blew up from there. We found that there were a lot of people who wanted to know about it and figure out what they could do. And so that's how we ended up here. I'll let you introduce yourself.
So I'm Officer Hershey. I've worked for the police department for 15 years now. I did 10 years on patrol, and this is my 5th year being a school resource officer at the junior high here in Rexburg. Currently, I'm the commander of the SWAT team, and I teach way too many classes. I don't have time for most of them, but this is one of my favorite ones to teach. I teach to officers. I teach arrest techniques, weapon retention, ground fighting, taser, building searches, and then I teach Alive at 25, which is a defensive driving class. So, like Sean said, we've been teaching this all over the place. We just did a active shooter scenario at BYU yesterday. We've done library, we've done city buildings, hospital, school. We teach it all over. And we are teaching tomorrow at the preparedness fair. We teach one breakout session tomorrow, so that'll be interesting as well.
You know what? I'm actually feel the same way. I love teaching this class, but one thing I am tired of hearing about is active shooters. I mean, we're constantly hearing about it on the radio, on the news, on TV. It seems like somebody that we knows somebody who's been involved in it. And when we first started this class, it was more to get the information out. Hey, this is what an active shooter is. This is what you can expect. This is why we don't expect you to talk to them. They're dangerous people. But I think we all know that now. So we kind of created this time for you guys so that you could understand a little bit more about what you need to do and take a little bit more responsibility for your safety and for the things that you can do in an active shooter situation. But we also want to start with workplace violence, because you are more likely to experience workplace violence than you are in an active shooter situation. And we want to talk about the cycle that people go through when they're angry. We want to talk about why it's different from active shooter. They go through the same cycle, they go through it differently. The end result is different for an active shooter, but they still have this anger cycle. Active shooters, basically, they are causing harm, damage, death at that moment in time, and it's continually happening. That's what they do. That's what it is. The anger cycle, in order to understand them and workplace violence, we're going to talk a little bit about it, but it starts out down here. And you guys have probably all experienced the very first step in the anger cycle, which is questioning. He's not there to push my buttons. I'll do it myself.
I thought you said that's what I always do is push your buttons.
You do. That's why you're falling short today. So, questioning. People come in, they say, hey, why are you doing this? Why did this happen? What is this all about? Those type of things. That's kind of the beginning of the anger cycle. Okay? Doesn't mean that they're full-blown angry. It doesn't mean that they're out of control. They're just upset about something. Yes, you have a question.
That sounds like the IT help desk.
Yeah, pretty much. Like every call you get starts out the anger cycle. Yes.
Our computer doesn't work.
The next one is back talk. So if they're not getting satisfied with their questions, if things aren't happening the way they want, they're going to start talking back to you. Well, that's stupid. That's dumb. Aren't you guys trained to do this? Can't you do things better than that? Those type of things. Next is a refusal. Well, guess what? I ain't paying that. I am not doing that. You're not doing that to me. Those type of things, right? You can't do that to me. I have rights. All of those different things. The next one, slow again. It's challenge. Instead of just talking back to you, refusing to do things, they're like, go ahead, try it. Let's see what happens. I'm going to get my lawyer. I'm going to hit you in the face or something like that if you poke me with that needle. Those type of things. And then it peaks with an outburst. This is usually what we see with our teenage kids, 5-year-olds, whatever. Okay? Basically, from here to here, they're thinking pretty logically. Okay? They want to understand, they want to know what's going on, they want to see if there's some kind of compromise or something that they can work out, or just basically they want their questions answered. Right about here with the challenging, they still have a little bit of logic, but they're starting to lose their logic. They're starting to lose the way that they're thinking, because you guys know that when they come in, whether it's taking blood work or filling out a form or whatever it is, just the admitting process, some people don't agree with things that you do, but it has to be done legally, lawfully, just to protect the hospital. They don't understand that, and they're more concerned about them, their rights, being in control, stuff like that. And so logically, they might be thinking good for themselves, but they might be not thinking logically the way the rest of the world needs things. No logic right here, okay? They're based purely on emotion. They're upset, they're angry, they're scared, whatever it is, and that is where the outburst comes. Because frankly, would your 5-year-old be sitting on the floor kicking and screaming in the middle of Toys R Us if they were thinking, wow, this is really embarrassing? No, they wouldn't. This is where things can be dangerous as well, because when you are focused mainly on your emotions, anger, frustration, our first, I guess, instinct is to go to defend ourselves, to fight, to run away, whatever it is. And at this point, if feel like they're backed in the corner, they can become violent and deadly. Now, like every 5-year-old or teenager or, I don't know, administrator, once they do their outburst, physiologically, whatever goes up has to come down. So the outburst, the adrenaline, everything, boom, they come down to the quiet period. They're back to calming down. And then they'll come back up to where we want them to be, back in control. That's typically the anger cycle. And how it helps you guys is you guys can start recognizing as they work their way out the anger cycle. And you can recognize where they're at and get help there. If they're back talking you, some people go through this a lot faster than others. If they're slowly moving up this, you might wait till they refuse, or they're challenging you before you say, hey, you want to come help me deal with this person? Somebody who jumps up it faster, when they're back talking you, you might be like, hey, I don't think this is going to go the way I want it to. Get some help down here. The thing about active shooters, is this can take anywhere from 24 hours to 2 years. Okay? And they can go back and forth on this several times during those 2 years. And the problem with them is emotionally, they've got some wounds. They've got some open wounds. And those wounds, when they get back down to questioning, don't get healed. They don't get dealt with appropriately. For some reason, they're not healing those wounds. What happens to a cut that stays open? It doesn't ever get healed. What? It festers, gets infected, and it's not going to heal unless it's appropriately dealt with, right? For some reason, stress in their life is not being dealt with appropriately, and they found that every active shooting, they had at least 3 different stressors in their lives. I don't know about you guys, but how many of you have like 3 different stresses sitting in this room right now? No, I
Don't answer that.
And you're one of them. But yeah, I mean, we deal with it all right. I mean, I've got a gun on. Everybody's still alive. So I think I'm healthy in dealing with my stress. Okay? Active shooters are not. They might get upset. They might work their way up to this outburst. And just before they get to the outburst, somebody realizes that. Somebody they respect, somebody they trust, somebody they love, talks to them, calms them down. They may not heal that wound, but at least they're not up here where they're doing the outburst. Okay, and this can go through several times. That's why it can take up to 2 years for them to get to the outburst. The other thing is once they get to this outburst, active shooters, instead of going purely on emotion, are actually thinking pretty logically. They have a plan, they're executing a plan, and they have a goal. And that's what they're working on. They're working on that goal, that plan. Which is different than any one of us who are going through this anger cycle, that we're not thinking logically when we get to that outburst. That's what makes them dangerous, that's what makes them deadly, and that's also why we can't talk to them. Because they have a goal, they have a plan, and you talking to them is not part of that plan, that goal. You're just interrupting it, which is actually going to get you hurt. This, they're not expecting this. What are they expecting? Right about here. That's right. Their goal is to rack up numbers, to accomplish whatever they want, to get somebody to kill them at the end, and maybe, hopefully, they make it on the news and become infamous. Okay?
But who else in here thinks it looks like Little League football game last week?
Did you see this in the
How many of you were there doing it? No, that's all right.
So, when we're talking strictly about workplace violence and angry people that come in to talk to you, a third party has a greater chance of success with these people than somebody who's involved. Any idea why? Yeah.
Well, there's the neutral party, they haven't been, they don't have the emotion and the background with it.
Okay. Yeah, they're a neutral party. They don't have the emotion. They don't have the background. And the other person doesn't have that emotion invested towards you, right? So the way it goes is you two have a conflict, and more than likely they have built up a wall, a defense. You, at some point, will build up a defense, and then there's an impasse. That third party can come in. That wall for that other person isn't built up. They might be able to make a connection there that you couldn't make. Third party, we'll go to this. All right.
You put it in order, not me.
Things, when you're a third party, is you can say, I wasn't involved with that, but I'd love to help you out. These different things. I am not a part of what's going on here, but I'm somebody who can help deal with that situation. So let's talk about this. It means not taking sides, working towards compromise. Now, when we say compromise, that doesn't mean they're going to get their way, because most of the time, they're not. But you're going to help them understand. You're going to make them feel like they're cared for, loved, needed, wanted, all those things. A couple of things when you're a third-party person dealing with an angry individual. First thing is, if there's an audience, remove them. From a law enforcement perspective, we've learned this the hard way because there's a lot of cell phones out there. And if there's an audience, not that we're trying to hide anything, but it ends up, like right there. It ends up being more of a hindrance, and sometimes they don't get the whole story on the cell phone video. The thing that comes to mind is the officer that flipped the girl over in the desk. The kids in the room were recording that. He ended up losing his job and then being cleared months later and said, maybe you did make an all right choice. Maybe you were okay doing that. We don't want that to happen to you guys. There's another reason why we want you to clear the room of the audience.
So when we deal with situations at the schools, we deal with kids in classrooms, and they have these big outbursts. They're throwing fits. They're back talking teachers. They want to look cool. They want to look like they're taking charge in that classroom. So the minute we can remove that audience, that group of kids, we can take the classroom and say, all right, classroom, come with us. He's going to stay here. He has nobody to show off for anymore. That kid's just sitting there talking by himself and has just one of us or a principal standing there. He has nobody to show off for anymore. And there's times that there's, some individuals we deal with that they're adults and they want to act that same way. They want to act like they're in charge of a situation and show off for certain groups of people. So if you remove that crowd, if you remove that audience, they don't have to show off for anybody anymore. So
The other thing is if you have people coming to help you, you want to make sure that when they show up, they initially start out as part of the solution, a support group, okay? Not coming behind you as your muscle, ready to thump heads, because that just makes everybody more defensive. Make sure they're there for a show of support. As security officers, we don't even have to go in the room. You guys can know that. We don't need to enter the room. We don't even need to be in the area. Or if we're going to come in the area, if you let us know ahead of time what's going on and what you want us to do, it's super easy for me to hang out at the desk and talk with the HUC or the nurses, just like I'm having a normal conversation during my rounds. And they don't even have to know that I'm there for them. It could just be me walking through. I could stand outside the door, just listen to what's going on. And if everything's good, I don't have to go in. I just walk away, go back to my security desk, play Minecraft, whatever I'm doing. Minesweeper, not Minecraft. But so just know you can call us, you can get us up there. We can be totally prepared and never do anything, and that's okay with us. That's what we're here for. We're here for you guys. A little note: if you need us for anything else, walking you out to the car when it's dark or checking on suspicious things, give us a call. We don't mind. That's part of our job, so do it. All right? Okay. If an approach is made to show support, instead of the whole group going at the same time, just one person. If you're going to go put your arm around the person and say, I know this is rough, but buck up, everything will be all right. Don't have everybody rush over there at the same time and hug them. This is the most important thing to remember. Communication. When you're calling security officers, when you're calling administration, when you're calling the house supervisor, communicate, get all the information out there. Again, when we respond, most of the time if you say, hey, I've got somebody up here who is being disruptive, we're going to run up there ready to take care of the problem. But if you say, hey, they're just acting out, we think we can handle it, would you mind just showing up and staying back? It changes the way we'll respond to the area, and it's so much easier for us. And it's probably easier for everybody that responds. Your main goal is a safe environment. So sometimes you may have to cut your losses and just say, you know what, we're done. We're getting security in here, and they're going to escort you out just to keep you and your coworkers safe. Do it. Just know when it's time to shut it down. We don't want to aggravate the person anymore. We don't want to have to go hands-on, cause problems, and we definitely want to make sure that we know what they're capable of, whether it's weapons, a big person that can smash things. Keep a safe environment. That includes not getting within arm's length of them when you're dealing with them. Stay back a little ways, for obvious reasons. Anything else in a safe environment you can think of? Yeah.
Just a question.
Yeah.
So do you have advice for all of us on what you recognize when you're looking at someone who's starting to escalate? What do you guys see as far as the triggers of when you would call in more people and more resources as far as either trying to resolve the issue in a safe or a softer way or needing the force? Because there are different times when you watch an individual, and the ER nurses are probably much better to talk about this, where you know that it's going to be perceived as placation versus. Do you see where I'm going?
I do.
You guys know which direction to go when you're watching an individual. Do you have any like, I don't know, cheat sheets for us as far as knowing that? Because I watch you guys assess that, and you know that, you know, okay, that's not gonna go that way.
My first advice to you is the sooner the better.
Okay?
The sooner you can call somebody to help you, the better. Again, they don't have to step in and help, but they can just be there, just in case things go bad quickly, because they tend to.
Kind of goes back into where he was talking about the anger cycle. If you have somebody that's actually starting to challenge or say, you know, if you're going to do this, I'm going to hit you, or, you know, they start saying things like that, or even if they start that at that refusal state where they're like, no, this is not going to happen, you might want to at least get somebody there, standing there, whether it be outside the door, and that way you're ready. But also, like with us, when we're dealing with people, we watch a lot of body language stuff. I mean, when you start seeing the hands going from like this to going like this, they start pumping, they start moving around a little bit more. A lot of times that movement makes them start getting that adrenaline coming up, and they're ready to explode. So it's a lot of body language, and it's a lot of knowing if they're refusing to do something, there's a chance it could go up to those other levels really fast. Let's just have that show of support there. That way it doesn't go that direction. A lot of times we don't even have to say a word. We just step around from around the corner and just stand there like this, and they're like, oh wait, it's time to shut up because these guys are serious. You know, so
The other thing I would say is trust yourself, because everybody in this room is different. I mean, you probably could handle a little more back talk, I know, than most, right? But I know, that's why I saw you look at her. But here's the thing is every person in this room is different, and if you're feeling uncomfortable, there's a problem. Okay? Get some help there when you're feeling uncomfortable. So, you want to talk about? Oh, hey, look. That's his happy place, by the way. Hey, did that get in the video? Make sure that.
he puts the PowerPoint together.
We just want to show you a little clip to get your mind thinking about active shooter stuff.
I most certainly didn't wake up that morning and think that there's a possibility that I'll be shot today.
The world has changed since the events of 9/11, Sandy Hook, Boston, and Orlando. Americans are more concerned with violence emanating from ideological extremism and lone gunmen. Healthcare institutions are certainly not immune, and in many ways, our hospitals and clinics may be more susceptible to the social ills and causal factors that fuel extreme violence.
It makes you think in ways that as you've grown in your life, in your profession, that you hoped you'd never have to think about. We need to come into our jobs every day knowing that it's a high-risk environment for injury.
When you walk into a healthcare facility, it is a microcosm of your own community.
It becomes a very difficult setting to maintain a high level of security without people feeling like it's impacting on the culture.
Many of the things that happen outside of the hospital are going to be magnified in a healthcare facility.
What we knew was that active shooters were entering hospitals elsewhere in the country, but it could never happen to us. Well, it did happen to us.
It is today's reality to be ready for anything.
So right now we want to talk about some facts, some things from some studies that we want you to be aware of. Because hospitals are institutions, we rely on to keep their doors open to everyone. It makes them more difficult to secure. And because our campuses are becoming more and more vast, which Madison Memorial is, you've got a lot of different buildings now. Monitoring those access points is getting more and more difficult. Okay? Different buildings, different places. all we want you guys to do is be focused on your area, the place that you work, and be aware of those things. We're going to talk about some FBI statistics on active shooters. Okay. We're also going to talk about some statistics from other things on just workplace violence as well. But we don't encompass all gun-related incidents. We only do the ones where they come in specifically looking to harm a lot of people. Those are the ones we're looking at. One of the facts is that pretty much it's rare for a hospital shooting. To be totally honest with you, hospital shootings don't happen because it is a very secure facility. Okay, this is one of probably the most secure facilities that we have in Rexburg. All right, but in other places of the world, hospitals are a big target. It's a very morale-hitting weapon to take a hospital out. It damages morale more than anything, and that's why they do it. And the things that you'll see around here probably are not shootings, but more terrorist opportunity attacks, bombs, things like that. There have been an average of 14 shootings at hospitals per year. Okay, that's not very much. It sounds like a lot, but it's not very much at all. And that's in the United States, by the way. So between 2000 and 2011, 59% of those shootings occurred inside the facility, and 41% occurred outside the facility. We're going off a Johns Hopkins study here. But with those shootings, 29% happened in the emergency room, parking lot 23%, and this one actually surprised me because of how hard it is to get to a patient's room, but 19% happened in the patient's rooms. The reasons, again, the same study, 22% because of a grudge, whether that's they were billed for something, whether they didn't like the quality of care that they or their family member got. Social violence, talk about this one right here. The shootings escaping the facility, 14%. But the most common time a person experienced workplace violence was this elopement, when they tried to get out when they couldn't. So when you have somebody who is confined in your facility that is not supposed to leave your facility, your awareness should be heightened, because that's when bad things happen. And then last, suicidal tendencies. Let's talk about active shooter. This comes from the last 2 years, an FBI study. It's done every 2 years now. 4 out of the 50 active shooter incidents happened at a healthcare setting. 7 people killed, 8 people wounded in that total of 4 years. All 4 shooters committed suicide before law enforcement arrived. 1 was a group home, 1 was a care center, and 2 were hospital settings. Okay, and these were the 2 hospital settings right here. What's that?
I used to work in the Bronx, Lebanon.
Oh, did you? You didn't work there in 2017, did you?
No, but
All right. One thing I did want to point out is both of these happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, basically. 2:50, 2 o'clock. Not a time you would normally think that an active shooter would come in and try and shoot up your facility. As a matter of fact, for schools, it's mornings and end of school. So beginning and end of school. So this surprised us a little bit. I don't know why it's 2, but that seems to be the witching hour.
So on Wednesday, I was teaching this class by myself because Sean just decided not to show
I
up.
had more important things to do, right?
But I was teaching it at 2:45 or something, and I mentioned that fact, and everybody looked at the clock. A little weird, but
We are going to talk about one of those, the University of Cincinnati shooting. We'll talk about Isaiah.
yeah. So this is another one that I kind of put it as far as school shootings in the hospital setting. I put this one with the Parkland, Florida shooting, just for the simple fact that it should have been avoided. There was enough information out there that it should have been avoided, just like the Parkland, Florida shooting. Isaiah was 20 years old. The shooting took place December 20th, 2017 at 2 o'clock. He had a very extensive history of violent behavior. He was the only one that died, and there was one security guard that was injured. And here in a minute, I'll show you that video, and you can see exactly why there was only one person injured in that. That security guard did a great job of keeping it from expanding. Police were on scene within 1 minute. The reason for that is you had several police officers working security gigs like a block away. They heard a shot go off and they started to run up towards the hospital. And another security guy that was driving up there picked him up and drove him the rest of the way. So they were there very quickly. He had multiple drug, assault, theft, and other criminal charges. He was out on bail for a shooting 1 month prior where a bullet struck a bystander in the arm. He was actually shooting into a playground area and hit one person in the arm. He was found not mentally able to stand trial on several occasions, and the family petitioned to the courts that he needed to come home to be in a more nurturing environment, and that's why he was actually out on bail. That's why they lowered his bail and he was able to get out. He was familiar with the medical facility. He had been in an altercation with a security guard there back in 2015, so he knew that exact hospital area. One of the interesting facts is he was only out on bail for 2 or 3 days before this shooting took place. So he hadn't been out more than just a couple days. We'll show you the video real quick, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more.
The facility's security camera video shows Isaiah Curry calmly walking in. As instructed, he began emptying his pockets, then rushed through the metal detector, drawing 2 handguns. An unarmed security guard struggled with him and was shot twice.
Hurry.
The trembling voice of a 911 caller hiding under a desk.
I'm on the first floor. It's in the psychiatric emergency room. I need to hide somewhere else.
The wounded guard pushed past the gunman and out the door. An exterior surveillance camera shows Curry, a 9mm in one hand and a .22 automatic in another, pursuing that guard, firing more shots.
Mr. Curry then walked to his vehicle, and it appeared as though he attempted to enter his vehicle, but realized he had left his keys.
The video shows Curry returning into the building. An off-duty officer working security nearby was the first to respond.
Officer Nelson approaches, immediately shot fired, he retreats.
District 4 Officer Bob Nelson was unhurt. By then, the 3200 block of Burnett Avenue at mid-afternoon was a tense, worrisome scene. These are the guns police say Curry carried. He used one of them to kill himself. Age 20, with an extensive and violent criminal record, his motivation unknown.
He was charged in the past with assault on a UCL security officer, so I believe he had been to that location before.
Police say while up on a felonious assault charge, Curry allegedly assaulted a correction guard and was released on bond a week ago.
And Curry had been locked up this year accused of firing multiple shots at someone at the Laurel Playground. Chief Isaac expressing concern today why he was free given the kind of violent history he has. Reporting live, John London, WLWT News 5.
So as we watch that video and we see that security guard being shot at and being hit. I think they said he was hit twice, but he didn't just lay down and stop. And that was the reason that this guy didn't go into the rest of the hospital and continue shooting. A lot of the times these gunmen are so focused on what's in front of them that they're shooting and they want to shoot until that guy's down on the floor, whether he's dead or if he's laying there unconscious. So when he saw that security guard still running, he wanted to follow him out and get him to fall. And that's the reason that we only had one security guard hurt in that instance. He did a great job at keeping the attention towards himself until those other officers arrived.
The other thing that I've been thinking about is why did Isaiah just turn and walk back out? Because the facility was secured. I think he expected to have that badge from that security guard. So when the security guard booked it out, he couldn't get anywhere else. He couldn't do any more damage. And then he didn't even get a dumb criminal award because he left his keys at the at the metal detector. But one thing that bothered us, not really bothered us, but we wanted to make sure that when we taught this class, we understood what you guys were thinking. Because last time we taught the class, we had one thing in mind. We're like, you're going to run, hide, fight, get out of the building, do all those things. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. We've got patients. You expect us just to leave the patients lying in their beds to be targets. So we started trying to maybe look at things through your eyes a little bit more as we presented this class today. And I just wanted to make sure that we included your thoughts and your feelings in this. So we went to the internet, a great place to find people's opinions.
If it's on there, it's true.
Yeah.
So you guys know.
So this one is on health leaders. It says we can only protect one patient at a time. I'm responsible for 6. That leaves 5 out. Unlike police and firefighters, we do not have equipment to protect ourselves. We are not trained to protect ourselves. So no, there's no benefit to being in harm's way except to get shot so that they can move on to somebody else. And that's the way I was thinking and feeling. Hire more security guards. And I agree with this one too. You guys are too busy to be police officers in a facility as well. And that's absurd. And this is why we have the class. Because preparedness is not the only answer, but it is a guaranteed risk reduction method. And so, the other part that I like on this one is people are going to be looking to you for guidance, not just your coworkers, but your patients, their family, people who aren't familiar with this facility. And one thing I would like to throw in, we took out a bunch of stuff because of time, but we did have a clip of a lady who was in a hospital with her son and her husband. She stayed behind to finish filling out paperwork. They went down to medical imaging. And then all of a sudden a code silver comes over the loudspeakers. She doesn't know what a code silver is. She just knows that everybody is now running out of the building. So she encounters a police officer. He tells her to stop and hide. She ignores him because she doesn't know what's going on, and she runs out. That's going to be the same way for you guys. When these codes come over the air, they don't know what they mean, and they don't know what they're supposed to do. So it's up to you guys to help them out. And I can totally see that point of view as well. You guys have a lot of responsibility in these instances.
So does anybody know what we would call overhead if we had a dangerous person? Yeah, code purple. Awesome.
Yeah.
In each of the other classes, there was only one person that knew, so this is the best class so far.
And I always throw this out here. Like, I'm not big on codes because you have to have something quickly to relate them to. So it is code purple in here. Code Armstrong, I can understand that one because it makes me think you need help with somebody. But I love clear, concise communication so that people know what's happening and where.
So why don't we say active shooter in?
That's up to you guys, but at least if you're saying code purple and everybody knows what that means, say code purple, man with a gun in the ER, or MBU or whatever. Get out as much information as you can so people know what's going on and can make good decisions based on that information.
And we kind of talked about that 2 years ago when we had this class. Give them a location so they don't go running towards that area. I mean, if you have a gunman in the building, say there's code purple gunman in the ER or gunman in the lobby, whatever you can do to keep people from running out that area that gunman's at and causing more chaos.
I think the thought process in the past was they didn't want to alert or alarm anybody that may be not in that area, and they would start to panic and do something dumb too. But maybe now's the time to reevaluate that and say we should just call it like it is. I don't know what the answer is, but
I don't have a problem with the code purple, but nobody else is going to know what exactly is going on, and we don't want to draw people to that area. And that's our concern is, are we going to draw people into an area where that gunman or where that problem is? And, having codes and stuff like that, but in the situation where there may be something going on, we don't want a whole bunch of people going to that area, let them know there's serious issue here in this area. It's up to you guys.
We need to debate this because I like the idea of giving clear information to everyone in the facility of if you, just exit the building, but exit it in the appropriate place. But I also think that this is something that has to absolutely be practiced because we either are not going through firewalls, I'm a superhero now, through our fire doors with our fires, or we're guarding our exits for, what code's that one? Adam, right? And so we've got multiple scenarios that we'd have to practice of when we want to tell everyone, get the heck out, don't go through that fire door, or block that fire door for your exit that you're monitoring, right?
These guys have some good news.
So probably in a month, we're gonna do our first active shooter scenario here in the building. We're gonna do it probably in a closed off wing, so not everybody will get exposed to it this time, but we're hoping to continue to do those. But it'll be able to start bringing that realistic part to this training. So we do this training to give you information, but we do lockdown drills all the time in the schools. We do several a year. We did a big scenario yesterday up on BYU campus, which is great to see what that actually looks like and see what things we need to fix and work better on and what things work and what things don't. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about training this stuff here in just a little while as well.
Couple more comments. Oh, sorry.
Well, I just wondered, as officers, how secure you feel like the ER entrance is.
To be honest with you, I've only worked since I worked for the county. I've only done one shift up here at the hospital, and I felt like it was pretty good. But I know that when I worked here several years ago, that doors for admitting were always propped open. I felt like you could get in there pretty quick, pretty easily. So I don't know how it is.
Personally, I feel like the ER admitting clerks are at the highest risk.
They are.
Oh, 100%.
Because they have to badge to get back through to the ER. But there's 3 dead people right there.
Mm-hmm. And we've actually talked with some of the admitting clerks because they have a concern about being the first and foremost person there, which is true. And one thing that we tell them is the best thing you could probably have is a can of wasp spray to defend yourself, because if you have to badge, if it takes some time, you need to interrupt their thinking, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Well, I wondered how practical glass would be there, bulletproof glass.
It's expensive. Very, yeah.
Well, when you're
So it's a
looking
dead
at
person.
it's worth it.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that's
so
all
then,
your
the other
wages too,
concern is
remember
maybe
that.
that we're a family community, and we don't want to, send this message that we don't want you here. It's something like a lockdown facility. I mean, those are questions that need to be asked. I'm just saying that's what's been determined in the past, and maybe that needs to be changed.
I just know in the ER we're seeing more and more out of control, drug-seeking, crazy, suicidal, violent in the last 5 years. It's astonishing to me.
And I think the community, there's so much active shooters out there that we're getting used to that to see that we're protecting our
I think that
people,
sends a message
then they're
as well.
like, oh, good, we're going to be protected. They're working on this. It's a protection for the community also.
And it's good to hear your concerns. I mean, like, you guys, this is definitely something that you'll have to talk about in your administrative meetings and things, so thank you.
I think the other problem is in the emergency room, when you open the doors, both sets of doors open. So you don't even have the time to, like the other front door, one opens, then you have to push the button, then the other one opens.
When people come in, they see that, they come in.
Yeah.
Doors open.
Well, and
And
they
then
can hold the doors open.
yeah, both doors open when you push the thing in the ER. And so maybe they need that change so that there's a delay, a little bit of a delay for the other doors to open.
Those are some
I
things
guess-
we can address.
I guess, like, write these things down for Wade. I'm gonna put it on you, but, sorry. And we can't change policy. We're just cops.
And honestly, it's not only a concern here in the hospital. We get the same concerns in every school because the only place they can get into is that front office. And we've got ladies sitting in the front office going, well, they come in and we're dead because they have to go through the office to get there. And then you hear the staff and the principal saying, well, we don't want to put glass in front of you because it's less community-like, things like that. There's a big, people need to understand that everything's changing. And it sucks to say, and it sucks that it has to be that way. But safety is huge, and we just got to figure out the right way to do it and make it work for everybody, I think. So those are definitely conversations that we have all the time, not only in the hospital, but in the schools, in businesses. You want to be personable and you want to make people feel like they're welcome, but you also want to make sure everybody's safe.
I feel like we're moving up on the anger cycle here.
That's right. I'm almost there.
You ER people appreciate this one. This is an ER doctor. Oh, wait. I'm going the wrong way.
One more.
Come on.
You can do it.
You're so much better at this than I am. I recommend placing an administrator between you and the assailant until you can pick up your taser. Go ahead and place an order for that, and then once you've tased the guy, make him your new patient and document that you tased him. So, and here's a rad tech. This is a rad tech for sure. You have no other choice, put your foot on their larynx. Yes! That's in the video, right? Make sure that's there.
Just so you guys know, I can fire him for at least 5 more days.
He's my interim supervisor for the last 3 months.
All right, so some things that we should do to keep the patients and staff safe. Number one, and the first thing we teach is the run, hide, fight. We've taught this since the beginning of teaching this class. We go to conferences all the time, safety conferences, things like that, active shooter conferences. And it seems like every time there's a shooting, somebody wants to change the wording. They don't like the sound of run, hide, fight. So the one was escape,
conceal,
and defend. You're saying the same exact thing.
In Canada, it's get out.
So we've stayed with the same thing the whole time. Run, hide, fight. It's simple, it's basic, and it tells you exactly what we want you to do. Be aware, and then prepare physically and mentally. So when we talk about preparing physically and mentally, we're talking about in your work areas, when you're doing something, when things slow down, which they never do, I know, but take a few minutes and get up and walk through that. Walk through the places that you would actually go. If you were going to escape, walk that path out that door. Okay, and then play those things through your mind, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a second as well.
We're going to show you this video, and I actually really like this video because it's different from the one that we used to show you, because that one was more like how we thought. This one includes a little bit of patient care and gives you some more ideas on that. So.
Code Silver is the Healtheast emergency code for an active shooter or active violence. This would be a situation where a person or group of individuals have a gun or other weapon on one of our campuses or other buildings.
Whoa! You're here? This way to the next one. Am I here?
Active violence is relatively rare compared to other types of emergencies that we see in a care environment. However, just like we do drills for fire, for tornado, code red, code black, we also have to establish a level of readiness, a level of preparedness relative to violence, active violence. In a hospital setting, the run response may apply.
This is Woodlands ER. We have a man with a gun.
If you're in the cafe, if you're in administration, if you're in a common area, depending on where the threat is at in the building, it may make the most sense at that time to run, to find a path of escape, to evacuate. To prepare for this type of response, get to know your unit. Talk to your coworkers.
Attention personnel, code silver, code silver. Emergency department, code silver, code silver.
If you are on your unit and you hear an overhead page for code silver, locking down and sheltering in place is your safest option for you, your patients, your peers, and visitors. In an inpatient unit, we have the ability to close, lock, and barricade more doors than in other areas. We also have an additional responsibility to keep our patients safe. The strategy of sheltering in place has the greatest potential for protecting both staff and patients on this type of unit.
Where's the suspect?
When the police arrive on scene in active violence, it's important to remember that the police are there to stop the violence first and foremost. And they may be bypassing victims and other people. When you're interacting with the police, it's very important that you show that you're not a threat by having your arms raised, your hands visible to the officers, and then obey all the officers' commands.
We need to be willing to accept the fact that an active shooter may come into the hospital or on campus someday. And to be prepared for that, we need to ask ourselves some questions and to assess our environment. Where could I and my patients go to escape and evacuate? Where could I go to hide out if an active shooter was nearby? What doors lock? What doors do not? What could be used to barricade a shooter from entering a room? If I had 4 patients on a given day, who could I move into another room? And how would I get them there? So by assessing your environment on a frequent basis and asking yourself those questions, you will be more prepared for a code silver.
These situations are fast and dynamic in nature. Whatever you can do to help yourself, please do. Leave the area immediately, shelter in place, and as a last resort, fight back.
The run, hide, fight strategy is the best tool that we can give to our employees to prepare for this type of emergency situation. It's a flexible and dynamic tool that can adapt to the specifics of any type of actively violent situation.
The last aspect of the policy is to act or to fight. We are not prescribing that we train everyone to be engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the suspect. But what we are saying is be prepared, have a plan of action. Look around your surroundings. Is there something that you can improvise as a weapon? And just remember that if you're left in this scenario, you may be in the fight for your life, literally.
So together, we can attain a very high level of preparedness for our patients, for the visitors, other community members that we serve, and for our team.
Okay, so run, hide, fight. If you can get away, if you can get out, go. Okay, get out of the building, get away from the situation completely. Okay, if there's not a safe way, turn your phone to silent. I can't even talk now. Turn your phone to silent, barricade the door, turn the lights off. Okay, get quiet and out of sight. Okay. She talked about assessing your situation, and often she's talking like all the time. You know, if you're working in the ER and you have 4 different patients, which ones can move back and forth so that you can secure them all in one area? Is there a way to do that? Last, if you're confronted by violence, use whatever you can and do whatever you can to stop the violence and protect yourself. As you saw in there, it talked about being committed to that. That is knowing that you're going to stop that guy at whatever it takes. That means if it means hitting him in the head with something very sharp that possibly could kill him, then that's what you're going to do. You know, we talked about wasp spray earlier. we've given that to all the teachers and office staff now in the schools. Bear spray and mace and stuff, it spreads out, causes clouds and things like that. The whole class gets activated with it. And when we walk in, we automatically start having trouble because we're breathing it in and everything else. Wasp spray is very, very serious. It causes blindness, it can cause problems to them, but it shoots a long ways and it's very accurate. It's accurate to that one target.
Do you aim for their face? Is
Yeah.
that what you want? Okay.
Yep. Yep, because if you get that in somebody's eyes and in their face, they're not going to be able to see or do a whole lot after that. So that's what we've given a lot of our teachers and a lot of our office staff in our schools now. Okay, what we ask you guys to do is be aware. Be aware of your surroundings every single day and get to know what's normal. Okay, once you get to know what's normal, you'll start to notice what is out of place, what's not normal. Visitors in the hospital, we want to talk to the visitors. If we see somebody that seems like they're lost or they're trying to do something, just go up and ask them, hey, can I help you find something? A lot of the times, the way they respond will tell you a lot about what their intentions are in the hospital. If they're acting upset and angry, you probably ought to have somebody else go check them out. Get a security guy up here, get one of us up here to just say, hey, what can we help you find? You know, we can even act like we were just at the hospital. You know, he likes to come up here and eat all the time. Like every single day. It's crazy. But only if you have cheesecake. That one day he showed up without and you about had an incident. Ridiculous.
It was yesterday, everything's all right now.
But we can just say, hey, we were up here, we noticed that you kind of wandering. Is there something we can help you with? You know, and we'll get a feeling as well. Is this person planning on doing something? Is he acting out of place? You know, even if it is somebody that has a mental issue and we need to help that way, we can help assess that a little bit. Suspicious. Go ahead.
One thing for those of you who are a little shy and timid, just know you don't have to be the ones to deal with that person. If you get that feeling, just point it out to somebody, report it, get somebody up there who can deal with it.
Suspicious activity. Make sure you report it to someone who can and will do something about it. Okay, the reason that we bring that up, does everybody remember Virginia Tech? The shooting at Virginia Tech? That individual went in and did walkthroughs at least 2 or 3 times of the buildings. 2 of the times he chained the doors completely shut. Students would go try and get in. It was all locked up with chains. They would just go to another door and go in the building. Okay, maintenance was called. They came over. They cut the locks off. They threw the chains away, threw everything away, and just moved on, thought it was a prank. I'm not saying everything could have been avoided, because I can't say that, but could they have maybe called and said, hey, will you guys check the cameras and see why are these doors getting locked? You know, if they had cameras in that area. Who's locking these doors? What can we do about it? And maybe confronted the guy and said, what are you doing with the chains? Maybe it could have. I don't know. But give them that opportunity to dig into it a little bit further. We would rather come up here 500 times a day investigating things and have it be nothing than to have it forgotten and end up being a big incident or somebody get hurt. You know, I work down at the junior high. I'm a block away. If my students can walk up here to go to lunch when they're not supposed to, I think I can make it up here pretty quick. So,
that is a lot of cheesecake, though. So, just make sure
I
you
shouldn't have got him started. I'm sorry. Photography, weapons on the grounds, cars parked in odd places, bags left unattended, things like that. Just keep your eye out for those things. If they seem out of place, if they seem suspicious, get somebody on them. The best way to know something can be done is to do it. And that's what I'm talking about when I say get up and move through those actions. Do those things that you think you would do in those situations. Walk yourself through them. Maybe they won't work. Maybe you don't have the things that you need in that area to take care of and lock those and barricade those doors. Maybe that door doesn't lock like you thought it did. Okay? You won't know it until you go in and actually walk through and do it. No multiple escape routes. Okay? Even if you can't make it through one of them, maybe somebody else can. In the schools, we have some of the teachers that have some windows that open, but they only open so far. And the one teacher was able to put her whole class through that window. Okay? If there's areas in the building that maybe somebody can get out of that you're trying to help, get them out. That saves that many more people. Have a backup plan. Okay? Make sure you have the equipment you need to secure those doors. We just talked about that. So, even in law enforcement, we have what we call condition black. Okay? Condition black is when an individual gets in a situation that's very stressful and he completely freezes up. Okay, we've seen it before. When we get new recruits and things like that, we put them through scenarios. Does anybody know Officer Rhodes?
Yeah.
He's really, what?
He's my son.
He's your son? Oh. See, let's pick another Officer Olsen. No, he is a very big, strong-looking person. Okay? We put him in what we have, it's a fight suit. So it adds that much more. And we have these new recruits come in a room, and he goes after them. Okay? Because we want to see what they do to defend themselves, if they can keep their weapons in their holsters, you know, the things that they can do to gonna save themselves from getting hurt. And we've had guys that just stand there like this. And they're like, oh crap. Okay? Condition black, they freeze. If you think you're that type of person, okay, if you think you won't be able to function in a serious situation, come up with a plan to have that help. Have somebody come over and help you. Okay, if that person needs to come over and smack you across the face and say, let's go, wake up. Have that in the plan. Okay, I know before any SWAT incident, I have to go over and I have to give Sean a hug. Because he gets a little scared, he gets a little nervous. And, you know, earlier he was talking about giving hugs and walking up. He's very affectionate. So
let's do it for the camera. So we
no, we're
just so they know. I mean,
only SWAT.
I'm afraid that the mental image is worse than what really.
Put that in the policy. Everybody needs to give Sean a hug before we go in the building. But come up with that plan. Have an idea of what you need to do to get your area secure. You know, if you have to be locked in a room with the patients, that's great. You have somebody in there. But have that all pre-planned and ready to go.
Do the Kiki.
Anybody do the Kiki challenge?
He doesn't even know what that is. It sounds
embarrassing making it up. So before I talk about OODA, one thing I didn't go over, and when we talk about active shooters, and I'm going to make it real short because it's kind of my own soapbox about it, but when he was talking about active shooters and the difference between active shooters and workplace violence, active shooters, you cannot talk to these people. Okay, you won't be able to communicate with them. You won't be able to try and talk them down. When they walk into that building with the gun, they know exactly what they're going to do, and they're going to start shooting the minute they see anybody. A lot of the times, they shoot people as they're walking in that building. There was a couple that didn't do it exactly that way. Columbine, those guys talked to one kid and says, "You better leave." There was somebody that was nice to them that they liked a little bit, but there was other people in the school that really weren't mean to them that they shot. It was just like a lapse of a couple minutes that they said, you know what, get out of here, leave. Parkland, Florida, that guy went in the one door and there was a kid that he encountered. They had a little bit of a conversation, that kid left. And then he walked in the next door and started shooting people. 99% of the time, you're not going to be able to say one word to this person. They're going to walk in, they're going to be ready to shoot. The reason that they're ready to shoot and the reason that they usually don't communicate with anybody is because they're trying to get the highest score possible. Okay? That is these guys' intentions. There was a video from the Parkland, Florida, and he says, I want to kill at least 20. This was before the shooting. I think he got 17, and there was a few wounded that if they would have died, he would have easily hit that 20 mark. For them, it is, and it sucks to say this, but it's a video game. They know they get so many points for each person that they kill. You look at pretty much any of the shootings throughout history, active shooter events, they were obsessed with video games, movies, horror movies, things like that. Columbine, it was natural born killers. Those kids watched that movie over and over and over and over again. They were obsessed with it. The two kids that killed the girl in Pocatello, what was that movie called?
It was this video game, Slender Man, that involves.
Okay. I'm not saying that movies and video games are the number one cause. It is in a guy that does a lot of this stuff. He lists it as one of the indicators, though. Has anybody ever seen the video game Grand Theft Auto? The newest game. Anybody played it?
Seen it.
Anybody's kids play it?
Once.
So in that game now,
Not the newest one.
in that game now, I can go drive around. I can shoot people whenever I want, which is fine. It's not fine, but every game you play, you're going around shooting people a lot of times. But I can go pick up a prostitute. I can pick that prostitute up on the corner. I can go down an alley. A menu comes up. What do you want? Okay? You pick whatever it is you want. It shows the action. You hear sounds. It's over. She gets out of the car. You pay her. She gets out of the car. You jump out. You shoot her, and you take your money back. You get in a shooting with cops, and at some point it comes over and says, shoot them in the head. They're wearing vests. Okay, it gives them that direction. A game called Hatred, that's what you are. You're a serial killer, and you go around trying to kill as many people as possible. Where do you think they're getting some of the ideas of scoring that highest score possible? You look at the Vegas shooter, he got it done. He killed the most amount of people in an active shooter event.
50 some odd people and 500 injured.
He got the highest number. And then you see him on the news all the time. I'm not saying that that's the number one cause, but be careful. And myself and Sean put together another class that I'm hoping to roll out that shows parents what their kids are seeing. It shows parents of what they have access to on a daily basis. I hate social media stuff. Okay, I hate Snapchat more than any app I've ever seen in my life. I hate it. Why else would they make an app that the message disappears right after you send it or after you see it? Okay. The class we teach will talk about some social media stuff. It'll talk about movies, YouTube. I can get on YouTube and I can see pretty much anything I want anymore without having to even sign in saying I'm 18. It pops up with a question, are you 18? You click yes and that's it. They don't verify it. So that's my own personal soapbox. Me and Sean are trying to put this class and roll it out so that we can educate a little bit more on that part of things. But active shooters, that's kind of their game. How many can I get in a short amount of time? Because they know we're coming, and they know now that a lot of people are carrying guns and want to end these things. So they pick areas where there's a lot of people a lot of the time. OODA loop. Anybody heard of the OODA loop? Sorry, it came back. OODA loop. Back in the Korean War, one of the generals, one of the big guys was down watching these fighter pilots have dogfights up in the air. trying to figure out how he can make his guys react quicker. Our brains, anything that we do, anywhere we go, have to go through this process. Okay, when we walk into a room, our brain will automatically go observe, orient. It'll decide which way I'm going to turn, what I'm going to do, and then it will act. What he figured out is if I can make my guys make this decision right here before the event actually happens, that my brain process is going to go through its actions a lot quicker. So when we move it so it's observe, orient, and act. The decision was made long ago what I'm going to do. And that's why we tell you, get up, walk through the actions, play the actions through in your head. When we get called to a domestic violence situation out on the streets, on the way driving over there, we go through 500 scenarios in our head. What if I get there and this guy comes out with a gun? What if I get there and I'm dealing with him and he pulls a knife out of the kitchen? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And we play this what if game all the way to that call. It sucks to have that thought in your head all the time, but occasionally throughout the day, just think, what if the gunman comes from around this way? Where would I go? What if I heard the gunshots coming down the hall? Where would be the first place I could go? Play that through a little bit when you're doing these trainings, and get up and actually walk through it. When you play through these scenarios, and when we do this, win the fight every single time. Okay, we use in SWAT, we try and make emotionally based. We try and make it as real as possible. So when I set up a training with the guys, I want to make sure that they're doing their job to the fullest. So if I have them coming in a door, because we used to train, we would used to just take all the bullets out of our regular guns. We would go in there and we would act like we were shooting bullets out of the guns. Guys would have a corner like this, and they'd come in the room and they'd just kind of glance out of the corner of their eye and go past it sometimes. I had to figure out a way to make it so they looked in that corner, because I could put a guy there and they'd walk by him and the guy would be like bang, 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 making a noise like you just got shot because you didn't clear your corner. And the guy's like, okay, and they'd do it again. So I went out and I bought airsoft guns. Okay? So I put a guy in the corner with an airsoft gun. Those guys would come by, they wouldn't check it. Guess what? They got hit in the back of the neck or in the back of the arm with a BB that left a pretty good welt. They started checking that corner every single time. I made it more realistic and made it so that they had to work to not feel any pain. And it taught them every single time, let's clear those corners. And it works. Emotionally based, when we did the active shooter training yesterday on campus, we had guys come in and they did the whole moulage kit with the wounds, and the first guy they walked in had a big thing on his head. There was blood on the floor. He was dead on the floor. His sister was right next to him with a gunshot to the leg, and she was screaming, help me, help me, we got to save him. Well, my first guys in that building have to step over top of him and go and find that killer without stopping and trying to help. And we had one of our officers' wives that works here at the hospital say the first time we did that, he came home and he said, I cannot believe how hard that was. Even though he knew it wasn't real, there was some emotion in walking over that person that had been shot. And it bothered him. Okay? We make our training emotionally based so that we know what they're going to do in the situation, and we can train them. We're going to walk over top of it. So when we do drills or when you guys practice this stuff, I don't want you sitting there crying at work all the time, but make it as realistic as possible. You know, have one of your people come in and walk in pretending to be a gunman, and you guys go and hide. You know, if you get any downtime, but make it as real as possible to you. Mentally, physically, make it real. And we'll be doing that drill here, and we'll make it as real as we can, and make it so that, you know, people learn stuff from it and they know what it's going to feel like, because the adrenaline You act completely different when you have adrenaline rushing through you. You get some tunnel vision. You forget a lot of things. Just look at, how many police officers go out time and time again out to the range and shoot, and then they get in a shooting and there's 130 rounds shot and the guy's only hit twice. It happens. It's a lot different when there's actually bullets coming towards you. You're not standing in front of a white target.
One thing that we think is really important is that you guys know how we plan to respond to these things. Part of that is because you've got this guy coming in, he's shooting up your workplace, he's shooting your coworkers, possibly injuring you guys. You're going to feel afraid. You're possibly going to feel like everything, like all your choices are taken from you, you're not in control, those type of things. You're going to feel like a victim, basically. And eventually you're going to get out of the building, okay? Most people, when they see lights and sirens and everything showing up, would have the, whew, I'm safe. That's not the case. Hershey and I were really friendly individuals. I try and smile at. There we go. But we try and, we work in the schools, we work with kids, we try to be the good, friendly neighborhood officer. It's not going to be that way when I show up to this place. One thing I'm going to promise you is I am showing up. Next thing I'm going to promise you is we are coming in this building. We're not going to wait outside like you've seen in a few incidents in the past. We're coming straight in, we're not waiting for our backup, and we're going to go take care of the issue so that everybody's safe, okay? The problem with that is I'm going to change from the nice, friendly neighborhood police officer to a guy who's going to get the business done. And a few things have to happen for that change to take place, okay? First off, I want to be the biggest, toughest, meanest guy in the building when I come in here. The second, I want to have the biggest, toughest, baddest gun that comes in with me, okay? When I come in, you're going to see me, you're going to think, oh, thank goodness the police are here, and I'm going to point that big, bad gun at you, okay? I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to yell at you, and it's going to be, show me your hands! Show me your hands! Do not move! That doesn't sound like the friendly officer that I was, right? Okay? A couple things you can do for me. One, show me your hands. If your hands are up like this, I can see that you don't have any weapons, you're not a threat to me. I can very quickly determine whether I want to let you go by or whether I want to deal with you. Okay? Whether you're nice or whether you're not. If you're nice, I'm going to tell you what to do. You are going to do what I want you to do. If not, I'm going to make you do what I want you to do. So it's your choice, but it's going to happen, okay? Second, if I think that you're a possible threat, you might not be the threat, but for some reason I think you might be a possible threat. Me and my buddies, we're probably going to take you to the ground. We're going to put our knees in your back. We're going to put you in handcuffs. We're not very comfortable. And then we're going to pat you down, which means that we're going to put our hands in places that I don't like touching people, okay? That is not a very comfortable, fun experience. And then we're going to take you out. Eventually, we will figure out that you're all right, and hopefully we can be friends after that. Okay? But these things are going to happen, and I want you guys to play that into your practice and just know that we are not there to save you per se. We are there to save and control the situation. All right? Then we're going to take care of that shooter, that situation. And we also have it that we're going to bring EMS guys in and we're going to try and get the wounded out as quickly as possible. No longer is EMS going to sit back and wait until we make the scene safe. Okay? We need you guys to know what you're going to do in this situation. We need you to keep yourself safe because you are a resource after this for us to help mitigate the loss of lives. Okay? I don't want you guys to feel like when we come in that we're being mean, that we're being badge heavy. This is how we do our jobs. I might even use some foul language.
It's bad. He's got a potty mouth.
It slips out. Like I have a filter most of the time, but but there's a couple times. It's not because I hate you. All the officers were there to do a job. Include that in your training. Include that in your thoughts and your what if games, things like that. Be able, if we ask you questions, to be able to give us short, concise answers. Don't guess. If you don't know, just say, I don't know. I'm just headed out. That type of thing. Anything else you want to add to how we would respond to that?
Just that first initial team that comes in, their only job is to find that guy and stop him from what he's doing. Okay? That is their job. We will have a second team coming in right after them. So normally what it is the first 4 or 5 guys through that door, that's their job. And they will get together and they will move in a team eventually. We don't have them wait at the door. If there's one guy that shows up and nobody's with him, he goes inside immediately. We don't wait for a team. Okay? Those first 4 or 5 guys will go in and that's their job. The next few guys that show up, we'll put them with 2 paramedics. So you'll have 3 or 4 officers, 2 paramedics, and their job is to go in and start triaging and deciding this person needs to be taken out immediately. This person we can throw a tourniquet on and they can wait just a minute. We need to get these guys going and get them moving. So we start putting in rescue teams. We were actually one of the first groups of people in the nation to get that done with our paramedics. We had them all sign a MOU that we were going to work together, and this is how we were going to do that. Okay, we're there to protect those paramedics. We have guys with guns that are watching over them. If we start to get in a gunfight, they'll jump off to the side, and we'll take care of the problem. But we want to get them in there. Columbine, there was a guy that was upstairs for 5 hours bleeding to death, and he ended up dying because they didn't get anybody up there quick enough. We want to get people out, and we want to get them the help as quickly as possible, but don't feel bad that those first initial guys are going to walk past you, and they probably aren't going to say a whole lot to you. They may say help's on the way, and they may keep moving. If you grab a hold of them and start holding on to them, they're going to probably push you away and say you need to get back, because they have got to focus on taking that threat and stopping him. And after that, the next team will be another rescue team, and the next team will be another rescue team. And we'll send in rescue teams till we have enough rescue teams to save everybody that's got an injury. And then we're going to start evacuating the building. And we will come door to door to door and open every single door and get you guys out. Anything else?
I've got the paragraph. If we ever do that.
Here we go with the cheesecake again. Any questions on anything to do with active shooter? Who's going to ask it? Somebody's going to ask it. I know it. We get it every single time. Wade, are you going to ask it? Nobody else is going to ask it.
No. Just tell us.
Concealed weapon carry holders inside the hospital. Okay? What do we want you guys to do? Number 1, do not go running through the hospital chasing the bad guy. Because I guarantee you when we show up, you have a high likelihood of getting shot. Because in these incidents, we do not get good descriptions. Everybody sees the gun, and the gun's always 10 times bigger than what it really is. Because it frightens people and it grows as they get on the phone and call. Okay, we've got a 10-foot suspect with a 6-foot gun. Okay? So we're running through the hall with a very vague description, looking for somebody running through the halls with a gun. And we get a concealed carrier running through the hallways with a gun, and we come around the corner, and we end up having to shoot somebody, and then we have to live with that the rest of our lives, that we killed somebody that was trying to help. If you have an area and you lock yourself in that area, and that gunman comes in your area and tries to cause harm to you, then shoot him. Okay, I have no problem with that. You're in your own area and you deal with the threat. The other thing is, we train all the time. And it's like I told you guys before, we get in shootings and we shoot a lot of bullets and we don't hit every single time. If you're only training once or twice a year, I guarantee you're going to miss a lot more than that. And there's a chance that your misses are going to hit innocent people. Okay, we try and train so that we know what our background is when we're firing our guns. We try and train that we don't shoot towards a room that could be clear full of people. We want whoever it is to know what they're doing with the gun if they plan on carrying a gun. Okay, we go through regular shooting practices out on the range. We have a simulation machine now that has a big screen, and we go in there and it puts us in situations where we have to make our decision. Are you going to shoot here or are you going to shoot there? We go through all sorts of shooting training and trying to decide, are you going to shoot or are you not going to shoot? We do a lot of training that way so that we can make the best decision possible. And not everybody goes through that. So if you have a gun, stay in your area and protect yourself and your coworkers that are in that area with you.